memory in your mind rather than that
100%.
feeling of being ignored. So
I
yeah,
know. And I really hope that sort of everyone watching isn't going, oh my gosh, Charlotte's just talking about replying to comments. Isn't that the bare minimum? You would be blown away by how many brands do not reply to
yeah,
comments.
yeah,
So I have to put it in there, because even if someone replied with a couple of emojis, like sure, it's not even words, like you can't even get much from it. You could
yeah,
still, if you were a good CMer, you could still go back and ask a question based on those funny emojis that person's
yeah,
put. So like everything is replyable. Is that even a word? I don't know. Like you can reply to everything. You don't have to, but there's gold there if you're willing to find it, you know?
absolutely.
A couple more just because I couldn't resist.
Awesome.
So this was Bay of Plenty Civil Defence, which did an absolutely phenomenal job of their CM during the floods at the beginning of this year. They were outstanding in terms of the way that they communicated with their community. They kept them safe in terms of just the language they used, how much empathy was used, just the respect and kindness. It was such a beautiful, it was just a gorgeous example of CM, in my opinion. And I actually messaged them and I was like, you guys are doing the most. I am here for it. I want to watch it. Love what you're doing. It was very, very good. So you can sort of see based on the comments that their community just absolutely loved it in terms of this horrible thing that was going on, that was affecting so many families and people, that there was still this light at the end of the tunnel that could be seen.
Because essentially, I guess you're tying communities together by commenting and engaging and getting people to feel like, oh, these guys are open to having a conversation. So I think as well, people viewing the conversation see that it's important and that they are able to also comment and jump in as well. And I think it brings a lot of people together, and that's important as well.
And that's the thing, right? Like, even if you're someone that just jumps on social media and you're kind of like what would be called like a lurker, like you just kind of scroll and you read and you don't engage.
Yeah.
If you're a brand that's answering questions back and forth, you could theoretically be answering people's questions, which could make them want to go and maybe buy or do a trial or test out a service. You would never know that, but because you've been actively answering comments and being alive on social, looking like you actually care, you've got people there that will never interact, but they will be reading your stuff and they will be like, oh, okay, cool, I really like that answer and that sounds really awesome, I'm going to go try it out. So there's like benefits there that you probably don't even think about.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got a question come through here that I'm gonna see what your thoughts are, but this one's come through from Larry saying, I love your examples of humor and Kiwi friendliness, but I anticipate some audiences may resonate with a more serious, thought-provoking, impactful, value-adding response. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, these are just some sort of more humorous kind of examples that I found. But if you're a brand or an industry or, there's been pages and channels that I've looked after that have been in the medical industry before, and I had to use so much jargon and quite serious, really formal responses, and everything that I said had to be really carefully checked off against FAQs and PR teams and all of that sort of stuff. So there's absolutely room for more formal kind of CM. I hope I'm answering the question correctly, but
you are.
But yeah, you don't have to have, like, if this isn't the tone of voice, then steer clear of it. This is just one example.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's okay. If there's any other questions, feel free to pop them in. But yeah, as I said, I feel like there's so much I could dig into, and there could be a CM presentation for literally every kind of industry, and how best to maybe approach that, but I can only fit so much into this, so
I'm sure we'll have room at the end to go back over and expand as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted to talk about a few ways to measure your CM to see if it's working. So these would just be some metrics that maybe a community manager would be looking out for. Again, there's so many metrics out there, and this might not be relevant to you or your community or your business goals, but some common metrics for a CM might be retention. So how many people are on the page, how many people are joining, how many people are leaving, how many people are participating, engagement rate. I would put all of that sort of in that. But again, like I would just use that as one example.
Yeah.
Brand sentiment. So that's how people feel about your brand and your product, your services, what they're talking about that are kind of like around the topics that your brand is about, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Conversion rate. So this could be offering insights into how many users in your community are completing actions that your content prompts. Maybe it's, and when I say conversion rate, I'm not just meaning like goes and makes a sale on your website, if that's the kind of business you have. I'm talking also a conversion rate could be clicking a button that takes them to a discovery call. It could be clicking a blog post to read it on your website. Like that's kind of what I'm talking about in this example. And then of course, customer engagement. So that metric obviously determines how engaging your content is and which things are getting the most attention, really. So there's ways to actually measure all of what I've just said. Like there's sort of different calculations and things to measure brand sentiment. I think that one in particular is like, say you're measuring brand sentiment on a particular post, maths is not my forte, by the way, but it's like, you take the amount of posts and I think you take away the negative comments.
Right.
And what's left is like the percentage of how positive. So brand sentiment is like positive, neutral, or negative. That's kind of the three. But you can find all of this information online if that's something that you're like, oh, I should probably be measuring this, or I want to know.
I was just going to say, do you use any kind of app or platform or anything for measuring this in different ways across different things, or are you sort of more manual, or how do you do it?
Yeah, so it's a mixture. So there's paid software that I've used, there's free software I've used, there's manual methods that can be pretty, they're still pretty good to use as well, because I would recommend just jumping in. You're already going to be in there, right? So there's little things you can be doing, but there's all sorts of ways to measure this stuff. I think I've actually got a blog post about ways that I kind of do social listening and measure brand sentiment, I believe. Oh my gosh, I hope it's live. It might actually be in drafts. Note to self. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. But yeah, like, I don't know, maybe take a screenshot of this if you want to, or send me an email and I'd be happy to help you work out ways that you can start sort of looking at metrics to measure this kind of thing. Happy to help out.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries. Are there any other questions before I move on?
Not at this wee moment. No, you can keep going.
Sweet. Okay, so your CM checklist. So this is like what I was talking about before, about just really, if you can get the foundations right and you can start with this sort of stuff, then you can build on. There's so much more that you can be doing to help build a really engaged following of super loyal advocates. So having a digital crisis plan in place is number one. Like I would 100% recommend, even if it's one little page on a Google Doc, have this, especially for me, for someone who has like minor like anxiety issues, like this is my go-to. Like I've used one for years. It's changed over years, depending on sort of what brand I'm working with. Sometimes it's 20 pages long, sometimes it's one. A digital crisis plan is going to absolutely help you when the brown stuff is hitting the whirly thing. You've got one page to look at, or a document that you can just go to and be like, take a breath. This is what I need to do. Something's happening in the comments. There's a huge thread of horrible, angry people saying awful things online about my brand, or these reviews are awful, or if you're just sort of freaking out a little bit and you're not quite sure how to deal with something, maybe your brand is in the news, who knows? Like I've seen it all, honestly. Having a digital crisis plan in place is like a number one thing that I would absolutely recommend. So
absolutely. I think as well, like there's a lot of probably, I mean, speaking for myself as well, there's that the urge to have your blinkers on a little bit and sort of go out there and do all of this without wanting to think about the fact that it could go wrong, or something like this could happen, and that, you know, you just would freak out at the time. So this is I probably something that I need to do. This is probably a lot of people would relate to, is that feeling of like, no, she'll be right. But this is such an element of safety, having, you know, a manual to refer to as such, and steps to take you through. Yeah.
And I just think in this day and age, you know, like I've seen like a little mini crisis for me when I was sort of doing some work for some big brands a couple of years ago, there was this huge thing going on. And I mean, it's still happening now, but scams, just so many scams left, right, and center, could be a mini crisis that you might need to deal with in terms of, you know, or what am I trying to say? Just like, you know, just trying to get communication out there about how to protect people and keep them safe online, vulnerable people who might be more inclined to click on a link or something. So it's stuff like that I'm talking about in terms of having a digital crisis plan. If you've got a plan where you've anticipated, like, oh my gosh, what if people start scamming my community? What if there's like spammy comments from someone who's a robot? Then what am I going to do? Okay, this is my plan of what I would do. And it's saved my tush many a time, trust me.
Right. Awesome.
So I would also respond to comments, reviews, private messages, tagged posts. If you've got like an Instagram or a TikTok, like any content where someone else has made it for you, maybe it's user generated, maybe it's influencer content, jump on that and reply. Pop yourself in the comments, get in there, have discussions, chat with people. Like, it's so important, I think, especially if someone's made, you know, a purchase, or they've taken the time to review something, or anything really, complaints, whatever it is. Like, it's so important to jump on that and to be in the discussion and to either be helping them or just making their day by being the brand that's replied to them that day, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just think there's also obviously a flip side to that, whereas sometimes I can't give specific examples, but like there's just been examples where things have come in and maybe I don't even have the answers, and maybe the customer service team doesn't even have the answers. So I've had to put like a little placeholder message in there being like, hey, I've seen your message. Thank you so much for bringing this up. I will, I'm going to go away and get a response for you in the next 12, 24, 48 hours. Watch the space, whatever it is. I'll jump in your DMs or something like, and have a convo with you. So if you need to, you can always take some time, like take some breathing time, and you don't have to rush.
Absolutely. I think as well, it's appreciating that people are coming in with questions that you potentially can't answer, because, questions is how we learn and how we grow, as a business and everything. So it's about, I think, through, prior engagement with people, when you have someone come to your page or your platform, seeing that you are open for communication, that they have a question, they can put it there, and you're inviting, I guess, the opportunity to learn and grow from these questions that you can't answer. So it's a really positive thing, I think, when people have something that you haven't thought of or you haven't got the answer to yet, because it means that there's potential there for you to become more knowledgeable and then help more people. So yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely, like you say, it's an opportunity. And there's you can be doing this again. Like, I haven't even talked about software, because I feel like that is just another whole thing based on, how busy your community is, etc. So you could be doing this via paid software, like things like Hootsuite or Agora Pulse or Sprout Social. Those are some really common ones that you could be managing all of this engagement in. Or you could be doing it, if you've got smaller one account, maybe you could just be doing it natively. Like, it's totally up to you. There's no hard rule. It's just what is working for you in terms of the influx, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next one I would say is ask open-ended questions. I've talked about this so much, but I think it's because I see so many opportunities of where I'm just like, but I want to know more, or you could have asked this to keep that convo going, or there was such an opportunity and you missed it. I don't know. I think it's because I've got my little eyeballs on things. I'm just like, There's so many opportunities. I'm just very opportunistic. So I don't know. I just feel like the quickest way to feel more human and to build engagement and to like learn more about your community is to just talk and ask things, and don't be afraid to have some fun if that's the industry that you're in. You know, also like maybe a tasteful meme or an emoji, or maybe it's literally just giving people a really formal piece of information that's got all the facts in it that they need, and boom, there you go, it's done. Or maybe it's going, you know, this is actually going to be a huge question. I'm going to send you a private message and it's going to have a blog, or PM me and I will send you a blog, because, you know, I want to be able to give you all the information that you need. So there's so many ways to really increase your engagement and increase that kind of trust. And this brand is great to talk to. They're really honest, they're transparent, and they give me all the info I need. And I don't know, I like that.
That's awesome.
And then take note of the little things. So this is just around the analytics and the data. I just think that at the end of the day, community management is all about building a really fierce group of like loyal people that you know, love what you do, and if they don't, they will tell you, but then you can work with that to you know, make, what am I trying to say? So like if you're noticing things like the same thing being asked over and over, or really common complaints, or just trends, basically, how can you use that information internally to sort of help people and the business further? Like, could it be a future offering? Could it be a new product? Could it be improving your own systems and processes internally? Could it be future content that you could create so that you could really help boost the awareness around that thing? So I feel like I'm being very general, but yeah, like there's just so many different industries that I could provide examples for, but I just don't quite know who I'm talking to. So again, like I'm trying to be, it's like an overview. I feel like sometimes an overview is so much more harder than like trying to you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what we'll do is so obviously everybody can go through to Charlotte's website there. You can see it there. And then as well as emailing Charlotte, if you have any questions as well that you would like sort of more elaboration on, or feedback or anything like that, you can email us at support@digitalboost.co.nz. But I was just thinking, do you, Charlotte, want to go back and just touch on some of the things from the start, and we have opportunities to expand a little bit more? Would you like to do that?
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah, cool.
Am I going back to
you just want to go back to where you started talking about just a bit of a brief overview, and we can just expand on a couple of topics. I've got a few questions as well.
Sorry.
We can go through. Look at it all unwinding.
I know, we're all rewinding time.
Go to the next. Yeah, we'll go forward a couple.
This one?
Yes, that one. And I was just gonna say as well, like, so what do you think in terms of like for how long you've been doing this, what do you think has changed or been the biggest area of change in this kind of arena, in terms of like the areas that you've noticed being like the most like in terms of platform, most scope for you to be able to use your expertise? Like, is it Instagram, is it Facebook, or is it, you know, response to blogs, or people contributing or commenting on, you know, live feeds and things like that? What area do you think has grown the most, or you have been the most needed in, or businesses perhaps need the most help with?
That's a really good question. There's a few things I can think of off the top of my head, just in terms of the sheer growth of like TikTok, for example, and just needing help managing an entirely new channel that's just gone absolutely bonkers. And again, TikTok's, you know, not going to be relevant for everyone, but that is a big one that I've noticed over the last sort of 5 to 6 years, just people steadily wanting to know more about it, how best to chat to people on it, what kind of content is going to be best on it, all of that sort of stuff. So one, I think just sort of the changing of just like technology, I think. AI, people getting help around community management and how that can be worked in with AI as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Chat bots, things like that. Just I think the bridge between a chat bot and what that could offer, as well as community management and customer service, and like how maybe all of that works, and like what the benefits would be, what is the risks. There's a lot there. And that's just growing as well. Like I'm just finding more and more people wanting to ask about it, and like what maybe they could be doing better within their business. And then the other thing that I thought of was probably risk management. So like preventing risks, crisis, like having a crisis happen, not knowing what to do, wanting to, basically just have a plan in place. I think I'm seeing more and more people wanting to make sure they have a plan, I think, because I think when you see something bad happen online, you just, I don't know about you, but it hits me in the chest, and I'm like, oh God, like I know what I would have done if that had have happened to me. And I really hope, I always feel like I'm saying to my friends, I'm like, I really hope that they've got a good CMer, and I'm really feeling for the CM team today, you know.
Yeah, and I imagine it's very time sensitive too, like, you know, when you see something happen like that and you're sort of the fly on the wall and the company doesn't respond for a while, and then more people jump in, and it just becomes a way bigger mountain out of a molehill as well. And I think as well, like that's part of, some people just freeze and they're just like, oh, it might just go away.
I know.
It gains momentum.
I know.
Yeah, but it's there forever, and it's out there. Yeah.
I know, the internet never forgets, right?
Oh, there's a really good question here from Ruth. She's saying, a digital crisis plan, what does this look like? Do you have any templates, or other templates out there that people can access?
Yes, I do, Ruth. If you pop onto my website, www.charlotterae.co.nz, there's actually a resource section, and you can download my template. It's literally the one that I use.
Awesome.
And I, depending on sort of who I'm working with at the time, I will cull information from it if it needs to be smaller, or I will elaborate if it needs to be bigger. But you just pop in you will have to give me your email address, but I promise I don't send you crap. So you can sign up for it, and you'll just download it, and it's a Google Drive doc that you can edit and just completely make it your own. But awesome. I would recommend having a little crisis template plan, and don't let it overwhelm you. Chip away at it. You know, you might start right at the bottom and start adding in bits, and then start building it out. You might get a couple of other people in your team to help you, joint effort, make it a little fun thing to do, because it's so good at just being that kind of thing to have in the background. And even if you never have to touch it, what a dream, touch wood. It's there. Do you know what I mean?
And I think it's very important as well to acknowledge that, again, a crisis can be an opportunity as well, and how you are perceived to have responded to it. Like I can think of, not specifics top of my head, but when I've seen companies respond to a crisis like that, you know, that could have left them in really bad shape, you know, with their image, and they've handled it like a champ and just come out with a wonderful, you know, sensitive, on you know, real on point reply, and people applaud them for it, and it just gets them even closer to the audience, because they're seen to be human. You know, we make mistakes sometimes, and it's humans behind these brands, and sometimes we put our foot in our mouth as well. So I think that's, you know, it's also one way to look at it. Someone also says, thank you for your templates, Queen. So.
No worries at all. It's just, I think as someone who is, I really pride myself on being quite organized, and I do feel like sometimes it's at my own detriment, but I do like to prepare for the worst, because I have absolutely prepped things, and then my future self has been like, oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially I think when you've got so many things that you're managing, and you've got a real goal in mind as well, that it's some things happening off to the side, and you just need to have plans in place left, right and center to support you. It's kind of like doubling up on yourself and having different versions of yourself managing different things, having been prepared. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think for someone like myself, you know, I've been managing at times up to 15 to 20 brands on social at any one time. And I need a crisis plan for every single one of them. So for me, that is a lot. Like that is a lot to be thinking about. And
Yeah.
having your eyes all over things, it just means you've got this one thing that sits there. And when you start feeling a little bit like, that pang in your chest where you're like, oh, I don't know how to deal with this. You've got this document that you can run to and you're like, there's my step-by-step plan. This is what I need to do first. This is who I need to talk to next. This is the screenshot that I need to take. This is where I need to email it to. Like, and then you start building out the response, the plan, the process, and then you can go back and you can dampen the fire, the potential digital fire. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, do you want to flick over to the next slide and we'll just have a look there? And if anyone has any questions on here as well, it'd be really great if you want to pop those in there and we can touch on that. We've got Amy here who says, any tools or tips for developing a brand tone for social and blog posts? It seems important for CMers.
Yeah, that is a really, really important one.
Yeah.
I think in terms of developing your brand tone, there's definitely sort of, I think if you searched for this, there'd probably be a million different ways to do this. But I think if you sort of take into consideration what probably like your brand values would come into it a lot. I think if you're, there's so many different ways that I could describe this, but I think if you're someone who's a brand in yourself, so if you are the brand, then that could look quite different depending how you talk to people versus a big brand like, like Mitre 10, for example, and the way they talk to people. So I don't know. I think, to be honest, I don't know if I've got a good enough answer. I'm just going to end up blubbering, but I think your values would come into it. And I just think what you stand for. So like, are you, quite formal? Are you really all about educating? Are you super funny? Are you just like wanting to be humorous? Are you like Burger King and you take the piss out of your audience? Like, I don't know if you've seen their Twitter, but it's next level. So that's just a whole nother.
It's bold.
It is very bold. So I think it would just come down to kind of what the values are, like what that kind of ethos is, and sort of, I guess, the value that you want to be giving people. And then that would kind of shape, I think, in my opinion, how you would talk to them. I've worked with brands that don't use like specific words even. So that would come into your brand tone of voice document that you might have. So it would be around, you're friendly, you're approachable, you're educational, but you don't make it feel like it's anyone's fault, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like you don't blame people, but you will like educate them nicely around it. There's so many different facets to it. I'm definitely not like a brand tone expert, but I do have to work with companies who already have their tone established, and then maybe I can help shape it depending on what's already existing, but I haven't come up with it like off the bat myself. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, it's all good. Do you is there anything else on your slide that you wanted to zip to? And then otherwise I'll get you to stop sharing and we'll just keep chatting away. Just have a little look. Is there anything that you're real excited about that you want to expand on?
Oh my gosh, honestly, I could talk about community management.
We've got another question here.
Ooh,
do you want to just stop your share and then we'll just make ourselves nice and big and we'll keep talking? So Larry's also saying, my audience is corporate, so I use LinkedIn, whereas many use Facebook. Can Charlotte comment on building a community off those two platforms?
Yeah, so I think LinkedIn is an absolutely amazing platform for building community, because I just feel like it's a space to really add that value, and you can, educate people, but you don't have, I don't know about you, but for me, LinkedIn's kind of nice because it takes the element of being too salesy away. Sometimes I feel like channels can be very salesy, and that's what they're there for, right? But also, you've got TikTok, which is like very education based, very humor and like short form, quick, snappy, funny video based. But then you've got LinkedIn, which is like, I don't know, I feel like it's very educational, and I feel like it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, it's just, it's sharing kind of from more of a corporate view of, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I need another coffee. But I just think if you're building a platform and a community on LinkedIn, I just think consistency in terms of kind of like educational content and behind the scenes stuff, I feel like that really goes off on LinkedIn. Like if you're sharing actual photos of people versus just, just a PDF slide, which a lot of brands do, and they're great. But I feel like the photos of people really get the highest engagement that I've seen, especially content I've created for previous LinkedIn brands. But yeah, I just think to build a community, you really need to be consistent and you need to show up, and it's chatting and it's engaging and it's taking every single opportunity to really provide the most value. If people are in your comment section, please reply to them. If they are in your DMs, please reply to them. Don't leave it a week. I know that sometimes people don't have time though. But I do think that if you just popped 5 to 10 minutes in your calendar, pop it in your Google Calendar, whatever you use, and just use that time. Even if there's nothing going on your socials, scroll through and just comment on stuff, because it's to be social, right? And like that's building it, that's slowly building it.
Absolutely. I was going to say as well, like touching on the behind the scenes stuff, like I know people don't often share behind the scenes or images like that, amongst all the other content, but behind the scenes stuff like that and pictures of people doing things within your company, along with content or like talking about what each person does is really important, because that builds the authenticity and the trust with your audience, who might be used to sort of just engaging with, your branded content or your graphics and things like that. To be able to see behind the scenes things is just really important. And I find that when people do post things like that, it gets a lot of engagement and people commenting because they can relate, and it's the humanness of it.
I was going to say, I feel like that is, we like seeing faces, right? Like we like seeing things that we can relate to. And I think, I don't know whether it's just a Kiwi thing, but it's just like honest, real kind of stuff. Like it's just the real day-to-day, this is life kind of stuff that I find really cool. Anyway, I'm really attracted to that stuff on LinkedIn. Like if companies are showing that, or certain people are doing like a day in the life of their job type stuff. Like, I don't know, I really like that. But yeah, I guess LinkedIn is an interesting one, because I feel like it's kind of, it goes through stages, but right now it's really going off. And I think if you don't, if you're not investing in your LinkedIn, give it a go, see what happens. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is when is a really good time for someone to implement these kinds of strategies? Like, is it right from the start when they're a really small business, or is it more like as and when they need it? Or do you think that it's just really good to start when they're small and they can start practicing it and start building on it, rather than being like, right, I need to do community management and there's all these things I need to look at? Like, what would be your advice in terms of like, when is a good time, or what stage of scale do you need to be at, or does it apply? Is it for everybody all the time?
Yeah, to be honest, I would say in various stages, it would apply all the time. So I think if you're a brand new business starting today and you've got your channels that you really want to start investing in, maybe it's Instagram and TikTok, start doing the community management sort of customer service aspect right from the beginning. And it's probably going to be you on your own doing all of it. But once it starts to grow, and maybe I think it would just be a personal decision, right? Like if things start feeling like they're absolutely going off, and you don't have the time, then that might be when you want to start looking at hiring a social media specialist, like someone who can do both, or a community manager or something to help you out. But I definitely think it's something you can start doing right from the get-go. And then as it gets bigger and bigger, which would be the aim of the game, ideally, is that it starts growing and you get that scope going. I think that would be when you would want to start looking at things like growing your team, growing who's looking after it. And getting more people
Awesome.
involved.
And when people come to you and they're asking, that they're saying, hey, look, I want to start doing this. Can you help me? What are some of the things that they need to sort of discern for themselves first before doing it? Like, is there a kind of style or approach that they need to already know, or a vision or a goal? Or do you help people through all of that? Because I'm sure for some it can be, it's quite a big deal interacting with your audience. And some people just don't have time to, probably don't even know where to start. Would you you'd be able to help with everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I can kind of help from, right from the idea that's in your head right now, that maybe you just need help fleshing it out. Maybe it's literally just me saying, being really honest and being like, look, you need to focus on other areas right now. This is not going to be super important for you. Like, these are the bare things that you could be doing. But come to me in 6 months or something. I feel like my integrity wouldn't allow it. But I can help basically whatever stage you're in. Maybe you've got this, idea that you're like, this is where I want it to go. I just need help fleshing it out. Or I've got one person that's looking after it and I need them to be trained up on all the benchmark stuff. Or I've got a huge company with a thriving team and I need Charlotte to come in and train them all and get them up to date on risk crisis stuff. Like, it's kind of a mix, really. But yeah.
Awesome. And is there like an area that you are really excited about in terms of like the way it's growing? And I know you mentioned LinkedIn sort of going off, but is there a particular area of community management that you think is, very potent? And, if someone wants to be like, look, I just want to focus on these couple of areas and I don't want to look at all the rest of it, is there somewhere that you would say would be the most open to being able to expand engagement and be able to have those conversations? Would it be TikTok perhaps, or LinkedIn, or they all kind of depend on the business?
Yeah, I would say like channel wise, it would just depend on the business and what they're doing. But I would think that, to be honest, like, TikTok is going to be massive for anyone doing community management, just because the reach is so much bigger. And I just think the amount of people solely on that platform using it every day is insane. But then also, I think I saw a stat yesterday that was like Instagram was up, I think, than this year than it was last year or something. I'd need to go and clarify that. But so Instagram is still chugging along nicely. And then also LinkedIn is doing pretty well at the moment too. So I think, like, channel wise, it would just depend on what you're using. And I just think, don't go and make all these new channels just because. Just really concentrate on the channels that are going to be right for your business. You don't have to have everything. Please don't have everything. It's going to cause you stress. Like, just don't.
I think as well, like, especially if you're new and you've just sort of, even if you've just started using social media for your business, or you're starting to look at, your marketing things that you're putting out there, that when you're starting quite small and you start implementing these kinds of strategies from the get-go, it's going to sort of show you the areas that are getting the most reaction, and you can kind of start to tailor where your focus goes specific to your business as well. I'm guessing, I think that was kind of the thing. And rather than when you're already big and you're already doing all these different elements, and there's going to be there'll also be a different language that you use depending on the platform as well. So I think it'd be less overwhelming doing it from the start. And yeah, absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. Does anybody have any other questions? It'd be really great to answer a couple more if anyone's got any. Or Charlotte, is there anything else that you would like to touch on?
I think, if anyone needs anything, please feel free to email me and I'll be happy to chat. If there's anything that I've sort of said today that you're like, oh, I really want her to touch on that more, just jump into my inbox and I'll be happy to let you know.
Oh, Charlotte, there's another question for you. Thank you, Larry. Can Charlotte help building communities through podcast strategies?
Ooh. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely strategies out there for building communities with podcasts. It's going to look a lot different, but there's definitely things that I would be able to help with. I do actually have a podcast, so it's completely unrelated. It's about food, so I could absolutely help. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. Larry, if you have any other questions after this as well, feel free to email Charlotte, or you can come through to us at Digital Boost. I'm just going to close that one off. And I'm just thinking, Is there, in terms of, so do you have templates as well for the different strategies on your website as well, or is that more for crisis templates, or can people come through? Do you have resources that you can give to people in terms of strategy?
Yeah, there are. I would have to actually like have a chat with them first, just to make it a little bit more bespoke. Yeah, just because there are so many just very general templates out there, and to be honest, I don't want to add to the noise. I'd rather just have a chat with someone and be like, cool, this is going to be specific to you, and it's going to eliminate the crap that some of them, not that that's, I'm going to dig myself a hole. Anyway, I just think that if you want like a specific crisis-based template, there is definitely something on my website that can help you out. But for specific strategy stuff, I would prefer to just chat with you one-on-one, either on a call or just over email, and I can help create something for you or build on something that I've already got and just make it a bit more unique to the situation.
Yeah, that's lovely. Oh, I'm just going to close this.
Ooh. I can't hear you, Kat.
I just muted myself for a second.
Oh, there we go.
Because I had something playing in the background.
Sweet. I was like, am I alone?
That's all good. We've coming to the end. So thank you to everybody who joined us. And again, if you have any questions, you can come through support@digitalboost.co.nz, or you can email Charlotte and go to Charlotte's website. And we'll be able to help you out. And this will be, you'll be able to play it back. It'll be live. And I'm going to close it off in a minute. So thank you to everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you, Charlotte, for coming and sharing your wisdom and your expertise and your chatter. It's been lovely.
No worries.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to head off. And thank you, everybody. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Cool. Thank you.
My starts filing out. Bye, Charlotte. Thank you so much.
No worries. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.